a territory in a perpetual state of winter, where nothing should grow. But life emerged out of the howling winds. Cold days are replaced by frigid nights, when a fire in the hearth is more light than source of warmth. And only on the quietest nights can you hear the whispers of a secret society. Despite the inhospitable weather, the people here have proven stronger than the forces working against them. This is the Freljord. To understand the Freljord, it is helpful to know the history of Runeterra's genesis. Runeterra was created by an unknown group of celestial beings using incredibly powerful stones that are known as the World Runes. With their power, they created two realms. One is the spirit realm. This parallel pocket dimension held a distorted form of space and time and is the source of all spiritual magic within Runeterra. The second is the physical realm, which acted as the material manifestation of Runeterra. It is the source of all elemental magic and is now the home to most forms of life, including mortal races and many magical beings. After the formation of Runeterra, the world runes were lost amidst the land, and the celestial beings responsible for them faded away from the knowledge of the world. Nothing that powerful could remain buried for long, however, and these world runes were rediscovered within Runeterra. Peace was no longer possible. Fractures in ideology divided the land into those who would use the stones benevolently, the few who would use the stones for subjugation, and the many who wanted the stones to be locked out of human reach forever. These differing opinions eventually led to the Rune Wars, a series of incredibly long and brutal conflicts that spread across the entirety of Runeterra. Several nations carved out a territory and established their own cultures. One of those nations is the Freljord. When faced against evil from the physical or spiritual realm, a fire with one log burns out quickly. That's why their proud bonds prevent the Freljord tribes from being swallowed by the hungry rival nations, the nearly endless winters, and beings known as the Watchers. Other nations like Noxus may have steel refineries supporting their expansion in the Freljord, but the people of the icy north have true ice. This naturally occurring element is exceedingly rare, since it is the purest expression of ice. Even rarer are the Iceborns, who are the only people able to wield true ice without losing their hands to frostbite. When the Freljord tribes are not distracted by a common enemy, they are quick to turn on each other and fracture like a yeti on thin ice. The tribes similarly brandish primitive weapons made from the few resources available: bones, wood, steel, and true ice. There are three tribes in the Freljord. The first is the Winter's Claw, a tribe led by the War Mother, Sezwani, who believes that the pitifully weak people of the Freljord are cause for its failure to advance as a civilization. For this reason, the land must be baptized in blood to be reborn as a formidable nation. The second and largest is the Avarosa, named after one of the founding sisters of the Freljord. Many believe that its leader, Ashe, is the reincarnation of Avarosa. She is one of the few Iceborns today using her bow of true ice to realize her vision of returning peace to a united Freljord. And finally, the Frost Guard, a tribe removed from the petty conflict between other tribes. The mysteries of this order are more numerous than the secrets behind Galio's creation. Most of the people of the Freljord believe their Frost Guard to be the ultimate protectors of knowledge that would guarantee destruction if in the wrong hands. For the few that know the truth, they know there are more sinister forces than ones in the physical realm. Led by Lissandra, the Frost Guard prepare for the rebirth of the world, only this time covered in ice. You see, the three tribes of the Freljord are no coincidence. They are parallel remnants from the three founding sisters, Avarosa, Serilda, and Lissandra. In their youth, the three sisters fought on the battlefield back to back with their unique talents, conquering the gods of death with arrogant grins. Together, they were unstoppable, but the events of their lives left them vulnerable and corruptible. Serilda lost her voice, summoning all of her authority to command the heavens to obey her will. Then Avarosa confronted the evil undercurrent of the world that can wash away anyone who isn't careful. Avarosa lost her hearing as a consequence. Soon after, Lissandra lost her sight. Lissandra condemned the magic of the mortal world and was rewarded with a god's cruel claws across her face. Where Serilda lost her voice, two spoke for her. Where Avarosa was deaf, she had two pairs of ears. Where Lissandra lost her sight, well, she compensated in ways her sisters could never understand. All believed that misfortune was finally done visiting the sisters. After all, misfortune comes in threes, but what holds truer is that misery loves company. Lissandra began to have visions of the Watchers, harbingers of Runeterra's destruction that make up the same evil undercurrent that deafened Avarosa. The Watchers promised annihilation by swallowing the world into an abyss with no borders or edges to measure or define. Best estimates say that it is deeper than a mother's despair at a stillborn babe and wider than the sum of all knowledge in Runeterra. This is the Void. The beings granted Lissandra a final vision of her sisters in battle, with their Noxian and Demacian neighbors, with Noxus churning out weaponry and Demacia waging war against mages in their own homelands. In an instant, all life across Runeterra was extinguished like a candle in the wind, without a smoke trail to testify the candle ever being lit. The Void descended. The blind sister saw two options. Let Runeterra be consumed by the Void, or prepare the world for the coming danger. Lissandra dubbed the name Ice Witch and swore her unthawing loyalty to the Watchers in return for peace, health, and wealth to those living in the Freljord. But most temptingly, the three sisters were granted immortality and the status of Iceborn. And so, the Watchers slept while Lissandra, Avarosa, and Serilda built their empire. Once they amassed a substantial following, they formed the Frost Guard, the original tribe of the Freljord. Most affairs were discussed in the Citadel. It was just one room, made of ice and stone pillars so tall that one cannot see the recesses of the ceilings, and so long that one must squint to see the throne from its entrance. This stark chamber was designed for Lissandra to address an audience with unsettling sermons and take counsel from her priests. Opposing religious leaders are brought to the cold steps at the foot of her throne, though they are not welcomed as ambassadors negotiating territory agreements. No, they are heretics at the mercy of her judgment. All religious institutions have hierarchies separating the closeness of higher beings from the worshippers. The Frostguard Citadel is no different. Lissandra is the only one capable of interpreting the will of the Watchers. But right below her are the Draklorn. These high priests wield their authority silently, gazing down on people from their armored headdresses. However loyal Lissandra appeared to be to the Watchers, her true motivations lay just outside sight. She knew there was no room for familial friendliness when the ruin of the Freljord and Runeterra is always only one day away. Built as an eventuality for the Watcher's return, Lissandra commanded the Frostguard to construct stone and iron spikes that jut out for hundreds of feet into the darkness of the howling abyss. Despite their impressive size and number, these spikes will not slow the Watchers for long. Mortar stones are used by the Frost Guard as a last defense against invading Watchers. Their frozen granite surfaces are free of any dimple or imperfection, which makes them perfect for simultaneously piercing and crushing any Watcher that may be venturing into consciousness. Eventually, the cost of servitude to the Watchers was too great. Avarosa and Serilda launched an unsuccessful rebellion. That day, Lissandra lost her sight all over again, and she shut herself in the citadel, trading a permanent rest so that she may uphold her promise to keep the Watchers in their slumber. The truth behind the Frost Guard's creation was buried with Avarosa and Serilda, but whispers of the void still fill the dead of night. Does Lissandra have what it takes to save Runeterra from drowning in the void? Are there any other champions who will rise to the challenge? Sign up for notifications and subscribe so you don't miss new installments as we dive into the lore. Keep the fire warm. Thank you for listening.